Good morning and welcome to Dateline New Haven. WNHH-FM, your home for community radio. I'm your host, Paul Bass, inviting you to look behind the headlines on the stories that make our community tick. New Haven independent commenters make New Haven tick with their insights and passionate takes on the news stories about the burning issues of the day. Today, we're reading some of those comments and commenting on them. Veteran radio personality Bob McCormick and intrepid WNHA station manager Harry Droz will join me in that quest. Good morning, gentlemen.
Good morning, Paul. How are you?
Good. Harry, let me check your mic. Donald Trump, good or bad?
Hello.
Okay.
Donald Trump.
So we're going to do a few stories today and see what some of our commenters had to say, read it out loud, and then we'll talk about it. And why don't we start out with the story everyone's been waiting on, even though it might be out of date if you're re-listening to this broadcast later in the weekend. Mayor Toni Harp has been trying to decide whether to continue her campaign for mayor. She lost the primary, Democratic primary, pretty convincingly, but she has her name on the line of the Working Families Party for the general election. The party says it's not going to support her, really. Like, she can keep the line, but they're not going to work for her. Her hardcore supporters this week urged her to keep running. Some of her supporters and not supporters said it's got no chance, step aside for unity. Let's see what they have to say. Bob, what did Elm Urbanist have to say?
Other priorities than supporting the candidate on your own ballot line? The Working Families Party confuses me. What's the point of maintaining a separate ballot line if you're always going to be supporting a Democrat or getting yourself into weird quandaries like this when your endorsement doesn't work in the primary? If you're not willing to back up your organization's endorsements, why go through the trouble of getting separate ballot accesses at all, as opposed to putting resources into your grassroots organizing? This isn't the first time this has happened either. At some point, the WFP is going to have to think about why it exists and at what point its current strategy is getting in the way of its goals. And of course, it's weird that we have this setup to begin with when one party dominates New Haven. The city would be served better if we found some way to separate the local party system from the state and national party system.
Hey, Harry Droz, what did our friend Kevin McCarthy have to say?
Right. I respected Toni Harp when I worked with her at the Capitol. I respect her today. She has done many good things for the city as mayor. But notwithstanding her competence and her conscientiousness, the mayor can only be at one place at one time. The time she would spend campaigning cannot be spent addressing the school transportation fiasco, the incredibly complicated problem of lead paint, etc.
Posted by New Haven taxpayer. She has zero chance of winning, especially now with no support from her own party. I can't believe she's even considering it. The primary was an insult. 16% is a huge margin, and the general will only compound that. It will be a walk-away landslide for Elliker. I hope she doesn't embarrass herself anymore. Does she think she'll pick up even one Republican vote? There are more of them than the Workers' Party, and Elliker will get the lion's share of non-affiliated too. Please, Mrs. Harp, read the writing on the wall. Have some class and step away. Well, Bob, living in New Haven, had a different take. What did she have to say?
Toni Harp should continue her campaign. She has nothing to lose. This woman has a lifetime of collateral. What does J.E. have? Nothing but empty promises and the lies he tried to spread about Mayor Harp. Disgusting literature, only sent to certain homes. See, the thing about black people is that we fight, and we fight every day. So to battle someone whose only claim to fame is that he caved to the temptation to malign and a good woman, busy work. If I say she decides to run, win or lose, she and her people will come out victorious because they fought the powers that be until the very end. The time is now for POC to see the writing on the wall. So I say, run, Toni, run.
So, Harry, what did 06511 have to say about the subject?
Am I on second page, right?
That's
Got it.
correct.
Okay. Sorry about that. Candidate only to public.
No.
I don't
What
see-
is the Working Families Party
I don't
even
have
doing
that
here? Okay.
part.
06511 writes, what is the Working Families Party even doing here? Why would they endorse a candidate only to publicly come out and say they can't be bothered to invest time and energy in a general election campaign? A cynic might think they were only in it to pick a winner, and they lost. I used to vote along the WFP line, but I am less likely to do so now. Harry, do you have Samuel T. Ross Lee? I always put him last because he always brings it home.
It is quite interesting that those who believe Elika would win, hands down, are so concerned about Tony Harp running against him in the general election. If you are so confident that JE will win and that Tony has no path to victory, why are you concerned with whether she runs or not? By the way, few expressed concern over Justin's run in the general election 6 years ago, after he'd lost the Democratic primary, or whether his run would further divide the city. Much of the hand-wringing here sounds hypocritical. Reverend Ross Lee.
All right, so that's what some of our readers had. A good cross-section talking about whether Tony Harp should continue her campaign as a third-party candidate in the fall general election, and what the role of the Working Families Party was. Any thoughts, folks? Harry and Bob.
Well, my thought is she will remain on the ballot. But here's some scenarios here. She remains. She has to make up those. What was it? A couple of thousand votes to Justin.
She lost by 2,000 votes to Elliker in the primary.
And are there that many independents?
There are 16,000 independents.
Wow, that is a lot.
And there are 2,450 Republicans.
Okay, that is a lot. So will they all come out and vote? That's the question.
Right. It is believed that in 2013, when they say the same general election campaign after primary, that most of those other voters went for Elliker. He got a lot closer after that. So his people are assuming he'll get him again.
So I guess...
Tony Harp's own political advisors told her we're not even going to work in the general campaign because there's no way he can win. Some of her hardcore supporters, especially in the black community, were very upset the black vote did not turn out for her and increased Elliker from last time. So they say, we're going to get people back in line and we're going to win this, and don't make assumptions about who was going to vote for you or not. Other people are telling her you don't have money. People wanted to change. It doesn't make sense for you. I'm kind of with Samuel T. Ross Lee. And I'm one of those pundits. I don't see how she could win. I'd probably tell her not to run, but I'd have no business telling her that. I'm with Samuel T. Ross Lee that obviously, and everyone kind of agrees this when you talk to him, this is Tony Harp's decision. She's on the ballot. If Justin Elliker had lost the primary, he was going to run in the general because he believed credibly that he would do better whether or not win or lose. So there's no moral or ethical imperative for Tony Harp not to run. The question is, does it make sense? A lot of people kind of feel burnt out from that nasty primary, and they feel like this could bring the city together. She's concerned about her legacy. Does her legacy get more at risk from another dirty campaign that a lot of people think she can't win? Or does she still has fire in her? You know, what does she lose going out there and making her case one more time? It's going to be hard to see, given that her team did such a bad job pulling the vote. She's going to have the people who are best at pulling the vote for her not with her this time. That was the labor people. So she'll have a weaker organization and less money in a general election. But still, again, that's smarty pants pundit Paul talking. This is really up to Tony Harp.
But the thing is, she's not going to have the unions backing her this time around.
They've made that clear.
So
she obviously knows, and she's a lot smarter than I am in knowledge about politics. She knows she has much longer odds, but she's a woman who likes to take on the odds. The question is, it's really, does she want to do it or not? And she earned the right. She's the mayor. She's on the ballot. You know.
Here's my guess. She will remain on the ballot,
but not campaign.
But not campaign.
All right. So when a lot of people listen to this in reruns, will know already. But there's some good questions people raised here about the Working Families Party. But what do you think, Harry?
Well, my thing is, the reason Elliker was ready for, if he lost, to go into the general is because he felt he would do better with the independents.
Like last time.
Right? So,
and Republicans.
But...
He's the white guy. Yeah.
Right. So, now, does Tony think she's going to do better with the independents?
the feeling among what is it when they've been having these meetings like Monday night? They don't invite anyone close to Tony Harp who doesn't want her to run. So they're really kind of out for revenge. Some of the core people who weren't very good at rounding up votes, but have something at stake if she's not in there anymore, and just genuinely feel like this is unjust. They feel a black woman who has a very long 32-year record of great success. They feel she was maligned. They don't feel they maligned Justin Elliker.
It's hard to let go.
I mean, their attacks were just as nasty, but
I think Tony is just, it's hard to let go. Yeah. So I get it. And of course, it's always her prerogative to run or not.
Not just prerogative. Like, I don't support either candidate, but I totally support her decision either way of whether to run because she did the work. She got on the ballot.
Right? You sound like the people when I went to buy a sandwich the day before the primary who said, I don't like either candidate, but I'm voting for change.
Yeah, that's what a lot of the vote was.
I think that's
what happened.
Feeling. That's not only that.
Well, a lot of people also like both candidates. They're both good people. Yeah,
that's what's going to happen.
But that was a vote for change. Right. You and I and everyone who analyzes it, including half the people around her or more, but who aren't invited to these meetings. Obviously, that's what everyone's reading it as. I read it that way in January. But we could be wrong. We thought thought Donald Trump would be elected. A lot of us, I thought he might be, but most of us felt he wasn't.
Now, she was state
elected.
Senator for how long, Paul?
21 years. And she was an older woman for 5.
And 5, and then another 6 as mayor.
Yeah, 32 years.
That's 30-something years 32. She has spent in politics.
Well, I was remembering Chris Dodd. Like, Chris Dodd was untouchable. 30 years as a senator. All of a sudden, people just didn't want him anymore. And his reputation might have suffered until he decided to get out. But it didn't suffer long term. People remember Dodd as popular, as successful, win landslides. And all of a sudden, he wasn't going to be able to win. He knew it. He dropped out of that race pretty early when it was clear. The same with John DeStefano, 20 years.
After 20 years, exactly.
And then he said, they don't want me anymore. And it's not that personal. It feels personal.
It was because he wasn't on top of his game anymore. He was
also, things change. People get tired of the politician.
But he started moving away from doing stuff for the people, and he started doing stuff for
that was the critique, but people could have made that same critique about him 12 years earlier. People get, I mean, a lot of things went wrong in the third term for Tony Harp, but also just sometimes people say, okay, we're moving on.
One thing, Paul, she's got to think about is she doesn't have a campaign manager at the moment.
Right.
And the people is what you really need to move forward.
And people to poll, and also money. She's got no money.
Why? And doesn't she have less than 2 months now?
Yeah. By waiting a week, she's made it harder.
Right.
I feel for her very much personally. It feels terrible to lose.
Yes, do I.
Yes,
and it's funny. They're not looking at the attacks they launched because they feel there was nothing wrong in their attacks. They're all just feeling like, how dare he attack her after such a great career. The one place I disagree deeply with her and supporters who want to run, they think her reputation was tarnished because Justin Elliker sent out flyers saying she was no good. That happens in every campaign.
Well, there was that FBI investigation.
Right,
I saw that.
I'm just saying, but that happens in every campaign.
Yes, exactly.
When Dick Blumenthal ran for Senate, Linda McMahon spent $50 million.
Yes.
Trying to destroy his reputation, calling him a liar based on facts about Vietnam. Mm-hmm. When Chris Murphy ran against her, $50 million with ads on TV saying he was a no good Nick, the deadbeat. He said he didn't want his dad to watch the TV. It had zero impact on his reputation. Her reputation is fine. It's great. It's going to stick that way forever, despite some flyers sent in the last
Let's go back to ads with Tony Harp. She used Barack Obama.
Well, that was great, but she also did attacks on Elliker pretty strong.
Right,
about
with the drones in the neighborhoods.
Basically saying he was a racist and didn't like black people.
Which is very nasty.
Yeah, Working Families Party. So they are a party of labor-oriented left-wing Democrats, and they're national. And what they do is they have a separate ballot line because they want to use their influence to push the Democratic Party to the left. So when there are Democrats running for office, they cross-endorse them, both in primaries and general elections, if they support their agenda. So in some places like Hartford and in Hamden, there are local bodies where you have to have two parties represented, minority representation. So there they actually get elected in Hartford, and they're trying to now in Hamden, instead of Republicans to get like left-wing Democrats on. In this race, they had a clear preference in the primary because they were worried that Elliker would privatize public services, and they knew that Harp had this very, very strong pro-labor record. There's not two sides to that. Elliker presents himself as pro-labor. I think he might very well turn out to be. Harp is like of the labor movement politics, right? So there was no question that she was their candidate. But now they have buyer's remorse because they really want to get people elected in other places. They feel she has no path to victory, so they're not going to put any money in. So these commenters are very harsh on them. I'm not sure if they're right about it or not, because a lot of people think, a lot of people on the left, this happens on the right too, feel that the best way to move to your agenda is work within the party that's closest to you and steer it. And other people think you should have a third party that does it. Any thoughts on the Working Families Party, guys? They're not strong here, so they
don't know too much about them, but I did read where they're involved in some like city council.
That's what I'm saying. Hartford
races,
and also mayor race in Danbury. They think they
what
can
about
win.
Hamden too?
Hamden, yeah, their council has to have a certain number of seats that aren't Democrats. So they have Democrats who are left wing running on the Working Families Party, hoping they'll beat the Republicans. Some people think that it'll actually split the Democratic vote and give the seat to Republicans. But I don't know. I think they're trying their hardest to figure this out. I don't think anybody did anything wrong. They don't have a big toehold in New Haven. We're already a labor city, so our Democratic Party is very pro-labor.
Well, here's another point I'm going to make about this, Paul, is that Harp will be down lower on the ballot. Am I correct?
That no longer matters.
It doesn't really matter?
I mean, I could be wrong, Bob, but when you and I were coming up, there were all these arguments.
We were always told to vote for either the first or the second line.
Right.
And then after that, forget it.
Like when Joe Lieberman ran as a third-party candidate, he called his that was Weicker. When he ran a third party, he was a Connecticut party, so the letter A would be above all the other third-party candidates.
Wow.
So we didn't get lost.
I don't remember that.
That's like when you go in the phone book, call yourselves like AAA Wrecking.
Right.
But we call ourselves WNHH-FM, which you're listening to home for Community Radio 103.5 FM, live streamed at newhavenindependent.org. And we're doing here on Dateline New Haven, commenting on the comments. Harry Joseph and Bob McCormick are with me. I'm Paul Bass. We're reading what our readers had to say about some of the main articles of the week. And then we're commenting on their comments. Gentlemen, let's proceed to the skate park. There was another meme out last night that I was at. We had a raging debate about a proposal by two young African-American men, both grew up here, skateboarding. They said there was no place for black kids to skateboard. The skateboard park is in Edgewood, so they can go there, but not in their neighborhood. They teach kids to skateboard. They're using the back lot at Stetson Library. They felt it was dangerous. So they raised money. They designed and raised money to build a skate park in Scantlebury Park in Dixwell.
Didn't Yale give them some money?
Some of their money. I think it's like $120,000 or $125,000 they have total. $25,000 is coming from Yale. So some people have come against it. So some neighbors have gone against it, saying they basically don't want the kids skateboarding in the park, but they're saying, it'll cover up the green space with asphalt. It'll be loud. And then some other people who aren't from the neighborhood, for the most part, say this is Yale trying to kick the skateboarders out of Beinecke. Then others are really strenuously for it, saying we want our neighbor to have a place for teenage kids to skateboard. It's a newly popular sport. They deserve the same opportunities as everybody else. We want our park to be for all ages.
So where are they going to skateboard? It's kind of like the
they
dirt
skateboard on the street
bikers
stuff.
thing.
Yeah, it is like the dirt bikers thing. So before we get to our view, this raging debate, Harry, you want to start with Politics 101? What did she have to say?
I hope I got the top. And anytime Yale gives money to some cause, she said, it usually expects some level of de facto ownership. Ha! Well, in that case, Yale already de facto owns the whole park. It paid for the expansion and renovation of the park about 10 years ago. If I'm remembering correctly, I am, as always, happy to be corrected, Tom and Paul. I guess that's a dig at you guys.
It wasn't a dig.
It wasn't?
She was asking us to fact check. She's right. She's saying because we weren't making the argument. She's responding to not us.
But you've corrected her other times.
No. She's just saying on our time right now to look it up.
In all seriousness, though, much credit to Roberts and Joseph.
Those are the people who designed it.
The Board of Alders wouldn't have approved it if they hadn't already shown community support. The fact that they continue to show up to meet the concerns of this small group of naysayers is a real credit to them.
What did Matt Fantastic have to say? He's one of the people Matt Fantastic works at a fund that is putting up $50,000 for this.
He says local young people have a passion. They got engaged, worked hard to convince multiple organizations to give them a ton of money to build something they deeply care about. And instead of embracing them and lauding their drive and effort, we have people complaining that some neighbors don't want the same things they do. I really don't get it. Shouldn't we be celebrating this huge accomplishment of young people doing something impressive and meaningful rather than NIMBY complaining? Sure, a skate park isn't for everyone, but neither is a splash pad or a big expanse of lawn. The whole idea of the community is accepting that not everything is for or about yourself. This is a positive improvement that is paid for, approved and ready to go, driven by engaged neighborhood youth. Yet we have people complaining about it not being X or Y, or that they weren't personally consulted. This speaks volumes to why it is so hard to get young people involved in the system and overall civic life.
All right, this is what CTDRV had to say. Hey all, I helped spur the conversation about the city's expansion of the park in Edgewood, and I'm a skater myself. That expansion was ideal, as the area had already had a park, was in sore need of updating, was funded by the city, and really took the input of the community of skaters and bikers and scooter kids and their parents into account. This is quite different as it's private money. Yeah, all money at that. Coming in at the same time as a bunch of zoning modifications. Clearly, they haven't taken the input of the community into account. The community is correct in coming out to assert their needs for more affordable housing and other issues. The skaters and would-be skaters in this part of New Haven would do good with the park for sure, but I fully back the weariness of having Yale continue its expansion of infrastructure even further into working-class neighborhoods. The needs of the community have been stated, and they got to be heard. Also, if Yale actually cared about skating and creating a place for it, they'd turn their spaces like Beinecke into a free spot. Those ledges already waxed. I would stop Yale sending Yale Police Department after the skaters. Harry, Politics 101, wade back in.
The ease with which small groups of New Havenists claim the legitimacy and authority, and yet, I'm sure this cut off something, and yet it is used much more frequently to exclude.
Okay, it says the ease with which small groups of New Haveners claim legitimacy and authority speaking for the community astounds me. Community ought to be an inclusive term, and yet is used much more frequently to exclude.
Robertson Joseph sound like members of the community to me. The alders who voted for the project, dependent as they are on voters, sound to me like they have reason to be responsive to the community. Why do the 15 to 20 people who show up on Friday afternoon, some of whom are paid staff at New Haven Legal Assistance Association, get to speak for the community? Why is the event cc'd by one of those paid staff members and not a resident? Why do we so glibly accept people's assertions that they are the community? Why are we quick to accept those assertions when people are yelling, no, to any and all forms of development while doubting that those assertions when people are saying yes? We can build infrastructure and housing and resources that are desirable and beneficial for people who already live here and who may choose to live here in the future.
Bob, what did engaged citizen have to say?
We, the neighbors and residents around Scantlebury Park, do not want your skate park. Our position is not anti-skating. Our position is that we want to decide what does or does not happen in our local park. And our positions is this: we do not want a skate park. We've been asking the city to make improvements to Scantlebury for years, literally for years, and none of our requests have been delivered by the city. Now, within months of you wanting a skate park, magically the city is bending over backwards to accommodate you. Something doesn't smell right here. Please, if you want a skate park, may we kindly ask that you build it in a location where it is wanted by local neighbors, because these neighbors are not interested. We want a park that is mainly green space, plants, trees, flowers, walking paths, benches, etc. What we don't want is a concrete monstrosity that will disseminate our quiet and peaceful park.
Babs Rawls Ivy weighed in. I love her comments. She wrote, as it stands now, kids are skateboarding behind Stetson Library. A terrible place to skateboard. Many of those children are too little to travel to Edgewood Park. It's too far and hard to get across Whaley Avenue. We tell young people to seek opportunities to get things done. This is an example of such. Both of these young men are New Haveners. They spend a great deal of time working with our kids. Skateboarding is growing worldwide. Our kids ought to have access to this world. The skateboard park would have a footprint that would not change the overall scope of the park. Not for nothing, there were a series of meetings. These young men went door to door talking to folks, put out flyers, and they came with money. I hope this community doesn't thwart this before it gets started. Young Mr. Roberts and Mr. Joseph are dedicated and committed. And I might add, quite respectful of processes and community engagement. They are not the enemy. Harry, what did stand-up comedian Between Two Rocks have to say?
I actually find this pretty fascinating and see both sides have pretty legitimate claims, which explains part of why governance is so hard. How do you represent the people when the people are a diverse group of voices with different values, interests, desires, etc.? A skate park is a great way to get kids out of the house and off their computers, and this line is erasable.
Doing something that engages them in a community and allows them to be part of something, learn something cool, make friends.
A skate park is also going to be a noisy, totally non-green space, which will absolutely change the character of Scantlebury Park. You can't blame someone for feeling frustrated that they can't get more garbage cans, benches, etc., but suddenly a skate park is allowed. You can't blame someone for feeling frustrated that they felt they engaged the community and did the legwork for the skate park, and suddenly at the last minute, a small group representing the community feels differently. These are the challenges of living in a civil community. I hope everyone can listen and find an amicable solution that makes both parties happy, or at least equally unhappy.
Bob, what does really from New Haven have to say?
Same old Yale. First, they tear down the Elm Haven housing project and get rid of thousands of black people off their doorstep. And now they want to build a skate and dog parks. Meanwhile, New Haven is still a top 3 among poorest cities in the state. It's gentrification, and they do it because they can get away with it. The people who live there don't matter. And instead of the people really behind the park, they put 2 young people of color out there to argue their case. Sad and predictable. Yale will spend millions on remaking their world minus people of color. People in New Haven don't consider Yale to be part of New Haven. It's some white isolated empire that imposes itself on the rest of New Haven. Why not take that money? And build more community centers, after-school programs, etc. If they are so concerned, take some of the $30 billion endowment and really invest in the city. Nah, forgot. They don't really care about the people of color in New Haven. The empire strikes again.
Whoa. Well, 1644 weighed in on this one. He wrote, in response to really, 1, Yale did not raise Elm Haven. HUD and the Housing Authority did because the Housing Authority and the residents failed to maintain it, as with so many other low-income projects in New Haven, U.S. 2, Yale took over the former laundry site at DeStefano's request. That's the old mayor. He himself was responding to neighborhood opposition to a waste-handling firm locating there. 3, if New Haven wants to be less poor, it should welcome gentrification and wealthier people wanting to move to town. 4, given that Yale freshman's class is 47% non-white, many on scholarships, it's doing a bad job of remaking its world minus people of color. Maybe an isolated empire, but certainly is not a white empire. 5, skaters damaged Hewitt Quadrangle, that's Yale's bike plaza, which wasn't built for skating. This park will give skaters an alternative space, as well as, perhaps, making Yale less of an isolated empire if Yaleys and Townies both use it. Harry.
John Fitzpatrick. A few commenters have written warily about the people a skate park would attract and the scene it would create. If the Edgewood Skate Park is an indication, they have nothing to worry about. I'm not a skateboarder, but I'm there frequently with my kids, who are 6 and 8, and I watch and marvel at what goes on there. It's a mix of ages, toddlers to middle-aged, and races, and they're on skateboards, bikes, scooters, and rollerblades. And that line is...
And everybody gets along. I've never heard anyone say a harsh or angry word. This happened completely on its own. There's no oversight by any type of authority. nor even so much as a sign with a list of rules.
The community self-organizes to share public resources. It just works. The teenagers and grown-ups have no problem sharing the place with little kids like mine and are really careful around them. Plus, the murals are beautiful, really impressive, and several of them are about the skate park itself. As for Steve Roberts, he's the reason my son skateboards at all. He offered free lessons at Edgewood last fall on Saturday mornings. We showed up, my son learned the basics, and now he loves it. I don't know Scantlebury Park, so I don't know the scene or the vibe nor the skate park that would replace or displace. But I do know that when a change is proposed, it's easy to focus on what you might lose and hard to see what you might gain. If the Scantlebury neighbors are interested in finding out what they might gain, they could stop by the Edgewood Park skate park this weekend. The weather forecast looks good, so I'll bet it'll be packed.
Well, those are some interesting comments from New Haven Independent readers here on Dateline New Haven's
They
commenting
sure
on the
are,
commenters. And we're talking with
That's a
Bob
lot for a
McCormick and Harry
skate
Joe.
park.
So, folks, I thought that was heavy. That conversation was about everything. It was about skate parks. It was about neighborhoods. It was about class. About Yale's roles in New Haven. It's about how do you decide who speaks for the community. It's about how do you change or not change as times change.
I think this is what you have to do to have a skate park. You may have to have somebody patrol it. Maybe the police.
Well, you know what? See, people don't admit that's what they're worried about.
Is there going to be violence there?
See,
I think
there's not in
another
Edgewood.
question.
But why do you assume that, Bob? You know, there's not violence at the Edgewood Park one. That place, that last guy was completely right because I go by there all the time. I am amazed at how completely accurate that last description was. All ages, all races.
I don't.
It's a
think
nice
about
place.
that,
They really
though.
get around.
Was it built to be a skate park?
Yes,
Paul?
they built that skate park in conjunction with the skater community. The city spent a year.
No, I'm not talking about Edgewood. I'm going back to
Oh,
Scantlebury.
no. Just like in Edgewood, they had to create the skate park.
Okay. But it's
not a monstrosity. Somebody called it a monstrosity. I
it's very
actually
nice.
like it.
Oh, I love it.
It would be.
It's very cool. Those half pipes. Just that you're seeing something you didn't used to see. And I think some people feel they want to hold on things being the same it always was.
But it's in a residential neighborhood where Edgewood Park is this big place. Granted,
that's what some people say. There's buffers. No, there's
it.
not. You're right. There's a buffer. The skate park has a river on one side. It has woods on all sides.
Right. Where Scantlebury Park is surrounded by
Bad?
residential.
It's not bad to have a place where your kid can go right in the back of your house to go skateboard instead of making them go across town.
I think
to
there's some
Edgewood Park.
good.
You can tell how biased I am, Bob. I think there are some legitimate concerns.
Right.
But I think it's a bunch of hooey. They don't want kids in the park. They don't want kids skateboarding in the park. But then we're always complaining, let's give kids something to do, and we're mad at them when they cause trouble. You have an example in New Haven of a highly successful skate park that is very convenient to the white community. Why can't black kids have that opportunity? One of these two guys grew up right there skateboarding all over. I've got to tell you, I mean, I'll write about it both sides because they both deserve to be heard, and some people have very sincere feelings, and there's some good issues here. But on the ground, this is BS. They just don't want the kids skating, and it goes against everything we claim we want for a community.
Would we end it? Would it be a sunrise to sunset skate park?
It's a good question. You could talk about some of those details.
Yeah.
What do you think, Harry?
That's a good question. But look, for me these days, you have to get the kids out of the house. You have to. And they get in more trouble now on their computers than having fun outside, skating, biking, whatever it is that
it's
they're
cool
interested
to watch
in.
them when they really hone these skills. I get pretty amazed. Look at what they could do with those skateboards.
It's amazing.
Yeah.
It's an amazing thing, and these kids need to be active, right? Their brains need the rest of their body to be active.
We should do things that people are doing in 2019. Some people say, well, 15 years ago we did a survey. No one said they want a skate park. People weren't talking about skate parks. It's now an Olympic sport. It's changed. The kids are skateboarding. They want to skateboard. It's fun. It's positive. Why in the heck
I'm
don't we
going
want
to
to do
agree
it?
with you. They do definitely need someplace different than the behind the Stetson Library or over
That's
at
a parking
Yale.
lot. People
Or
drive.
at Yale or over
There's gonna be
downtown
noise.
somewhere.
There's gonna be some noise. The echoing of the kids.
Right, that's
playing,
called
but
living in a
who
city.
cares?
You're going to have noise
Yeah.
anyway. Do you want people getting shot or yelling or, playing chicken with drivers outside your door and crashes? Or do you want a safe place for them to skateboard?
now the most interesting thing is what Bob said, right? So what time is it going to be a
Right.
You should have rules for parks.
There should be
Yes,
some
Definitely
rules for the parks.
Yeah.
And I'm pretty sure there is for Edgewood, isn't there?
Yeah. So I'm just saying, Bob said you should patrol. Should they patrol city parks? Sure. Cops should be around. The Yale Police Department is at the edge of that park.
Right. Is at the edge.
So
of
that Yale,
park.
Yale wants to make sure Yale has a lot of stake here. It's now half a block from where they just built 2 residential colleges. That's why people are set. On one border of the park, you have Yale's new big medical complex and the police department and the Rose Center. And on 3 sides, you have all these people's houses. Again, I do think Yale's played a bad role in New Haven. People always say Yale should pay to support New Haven. So they joined up with these 2 young men from New Haven who went to Yale. Everyone thinks that makes them bad. They grew up here. And they've been skateboarding their lives. They teach kids to skateboard. They're black. Why not support with a measly $25,000? That makes it evil. I know you see. I don't think about this.
I don't think it makes it evil.
Yeah, I'm with
Paul.
you. It's just ridiculous. It's just that.
Although Harry, you didn't bring up the reason you might be against it. One person spoke last night at the meeting I was at because a friend of Donald Trump, who's a pretty evil hedge fund manager, it's the fund is his money.
There you go. There you go.
Have you reconsidered your
evil.
position? Okay, we just convinced Harry, Bob. All right,
I guess we did.
All right, so now let's go from Mayor Harp and skateboarders in Dixwell to plastic bags. Okay, Connecticut now, you got to pay if you want a plastic bag at a store. More and more, they want you to either take paper or bring your own bags, which I generally do.
I'm surprised the Republicans haven't attacked
They have.
anybody about
They
this
have.
plastic
They
bag.
hate it. They hate it.
There's
I
plenty
know they
to
do.
attack here.
It's
just
kind of like this
ridiculous.
grocery tax that's going to take effect
I know
next
they
month.
love global warming and destroying the environment. So anyway, Hamden has gone further. Hamden has banned single-use plastic bags and plastic straws. So elsewhere in Connecticut, you pay 10 cents to get it. In Hamden, they have a new law that started Monday, this week, that you can't get the plastic bag. You got to get in the habit of bringing your own, or you could buy something from theirs that's reusable, a canvas bag or paper. So people had some reactions to that. Bob, what did East Rocker have to say?
One thing I've noticed since I forced myself to bring my own bags is that I am far more conscious about only buying what I need and avoid a lot of impulse buying. Hopefully, after the benefits to the environment, this will have the secondary benefit of making people more aware of wasteful spending and rampant consumerism.
Whoa, what did Elm Urbanist have to say, Harry Drost?
My experience has been similar to that of East Rocker. My family has always reused plastic bags for other things, cleaning, storing food, cleaning cat litter, etc. So we were bracing for a disruption to our routines. Not so. Which is, look, these 2 first
we're gonna
comments-
comment later.
Okay. Not so. We realized that other packaging that we once threw away without much served perfectly, sometimes better for these purposes. The bag tax was a nudge to be more resourceful with what we have and be more intentional about our consumption pattern.
And don't worry, Harry, we're going to gradually move to curmudgeon-y Republicans. City Yankee, who's usually on that side, but surprisingly here says, agree with Elb Urbanist and East Rocker. I'm not carrying a ton of groceries. Much of which were impulse buys. There's a way to be more conscious of what we do, and that's great. Now, as the new sales tax on certain foods and eating out from the state, watch me cut back on eating out too. I guess he's saying that's bad. The stores are going to pay for this in ways they did not imagine. And Connecticut will end up stifling commerce by their tax grab. Folks, cook at home and cut back on eating out. The message will be mistakable. I think it means unmistakable. He thinks it's bad, I guess, that people eat out. Cook at home. Pat from Westville, Bob.
City Yankee, new sales tax on certain foods and eating out? New. There have been sales tax for a good long time on meals eaten out. Your $3.25 small latte at Willoughby's comes to $3.46 with tax added. She does her math. A $5.99 half sub, obviously categorized as meal, purchased at Stop and Shop comes to $6.35 with tax added.
Harry, congratulations. Insane. You get to read the comment from Thomas Alleghi, whose comments are often like your comments.
Hamden legislators have made Walmart a little bit richer and Hamden residents a little bit poorer. Walmart and other stores in Hamden by law cannot provide single-use plastic bags to their customers. Will Walmart and other stores in Hamden reduce the cost of the items they sell? Seeing they no longer have to provide single-use plastic bags to their customers, I doubt they will.
Okay, now we've read what the commenters have had to say. Harry's been itching.
It's just
to weigh in.
insane. First off, the 10 says, I was at a gas station yesterday, right? And I said, let me go in and buy a couple of things instead of going to a Walmart or something. So I picked up a couple of items. I picked up chocolate milk, spring water, and stuff like that. And the person at the counter goes, this stupid 10 cents. She's commenting without asking me if I want the bag. This stupid 10 cents. I'm not going to charge you the 10 cents because it's not like we keep the 10 cents. We have to actually send it, and they don't know who's buying a bag from us. And I was like, okay, but I'll pay the 10 cents. But because she's like, you sure you want a bag? And I'm like, of course I want a bag. I'll pay the 10 cents because this is the law. Just give me the bag. I'll pay the 10 cents. You don't have to not charge me for the 10 cents. But it's insane, this feeling. Even the people charging you, if you go to the supermarket now, they leave your item on the belt. And you're like, you're not going to put them in the bag? And they're like, well, do you want a bag? It's insane. They're disrupting everyday life.
And you don't like for what? Like maybe saving the environment.
We're saving what?
Like the oceans.
We're saving the environment.
Yes, we are, because those bags.
The
end up in
United
the
States is
ocean
saving the environment, where China, India, all of the major polluters don't care at all.
We shouldn't take a leadership role.
We don't even budge this plastic. And then when you look around,
So should we just give up, Harry, and just pollute? Just like
you can't.
Just help destroy. We are a huge country. We're not as big as China.
You can't affect change when you have the biggest polluters in the world on the other side of the world polluting.
You affect change by taking leadership.
No, not leadership. You think China's going to follow us?
I don't know.
You think India's going to follow? No, absolutely not.
The economics have to change in a way that it's worth
Have they stopped popping out coal plants every month? Each of them pops out 1 or 2 coal plants.
Harry, what do you think about it?
You know what I think is the biggest pain in the butt? Remembering to bring.
Oh, that's the biggest
bags.
It is.
No, those are.
Because I don't drive. My wife has the car usually, but when I shop planned, I take the car and I have like 12 bags. I have for years.
Right. I have like 20, Paul.
But it's true. It's
and
true.
I
have stopped
all.
by and said, oh, damn, I forgot it. Now I got it. Like get a paper bag, which is harder to carry. But I think it's okay to have to change our habits and get used to something new.
Yeah, it really is. And these days, we're talking green, we're talking this, we're talking that. We're now talking a grocery tax in Connecticut. Paul, come on now.
No meat Mondays, right? In New York, no meat Mondays. They're going to change everything. Now you're going to be able to print out with a 3D printer your steaks.
Really?
It's insane. Yeah, they have. Now you can print out the different liquids are all,
So Harry,
based in vegetables,
and
then they create a little steak that tastes like cardboard.
What's the connection here?
It's insane. The world is going insane.
What does that have to do with the plastic?
I'm saying this whole the environmental people are going insane.
I'm gonna tell you one funny
what's this have to do
story.
with 3D printers and steak?
The plastic bags.
So what's bad about it is there's no
it's
plastic
going to lead
bag.
to the government actually telling you can no longer buy meat. You need a 3D printer, of course, but you can't print.
Harry, do you really believe that's going to happen?
A 3D.
Do you think the government's going to say, Harry, you can't buy a steak because it's a plastic bag? You have to have a 3D printer. They're already telling you.
Have you read the Green New Deal, Paul? Have you read the Green New Deal that they're trying to pass?
I will tell you one thing.
No meat.
The New Green Deal is not saying you have to have a 3D printer to print your steak.
I took it.
Well, you just said it did.
I exaggerated like President Trump.
Hey, Paul, I drank out of a paper straw. First time ever.
Oh, dear.
They stink.
Oh, they really
I did it
do.
once. They don't work.
You had to drink it real fast.
No.
Or you have a soggy straw.
I stopped drinking.
I tried a smoothie in a plastic straw. Paper straw. Forget it.
Yes.
That's like sumo wrestling to get your sip of the smoothie.
Yeah.
Next step is the governor's going to force you to buy a 3D printer to print out your straw.
No,
right,
they have these steel straws now, right? That you buy in order so you don't have to buy these plastic.
But try to clean those
straws
without any
and
residue.
It's hell to clean them. There's this little thing that you have to. But anyway, so
and then clean the brush that you put in it.
Yeah, a lady the other day actually tripped while crossing the street, and the straw went into her eye, the metal straw.
Wow.
So it's like,
Did that really happen, or was that on
no,
Breitbart?
it really happened.
Oh,
You look it up, Google it. Well, lady freaking got a metal
I only
straw in
believe
her
it
eye.
if Bob McCormick sends out the link on his email list and text.
So even getting rid of plastic straws is very dangerous.
All right.
Not just to the penguins.
Hey,
And that's-
Paul, we should do this more often.
That's true. This is fun. Well, it was really fun today. Thanks for joining us today in WNHH's Dateline New Haven. Thanks to today's guests, including the miracle man behind the controls, WNHH station manager Harry Joseph, Bob McCormick. It's always great to have
Yay.
him based here. We're going to take it out with the Afro-Semitic Experience, performing I Wish I Knew How It Would Feel to Be Free from the group CD A Plea for Peace. This is Paul Bass inviting you to fly free with us all day and all night long at WNHH, New Haven's home for community radio.